This is food fraud. Food fraud in pictures. We've come a long way with food awareness since I started working on the subject in 2015. More and more food industry people now recognise that food fraud is a genuine threat to the safety and integrity of our food supply. But few of us have actually seen food fraud up close. Part of the problem, of course, is that food fraud by its very nature is hard to spot. This week I'm sharing my collection of favourite food fraud images from around the globe and across the decades, starting with turmeric extract. The image in the email and the post is of two different smears of powder, yellowish powder. The one on the left is a creamy colour, pale colour, and the one on the right is a pale yellow. It shows that the picture shows two samples of turmeric extract side by side. The sample on the right contains about 25% curcuminoids. The sample on the left has been diluted with cornstarch and contains about 10% curcuminoids. And the image was supplied by Blake Ebersol on LinkedIn. Figure 1 shows a simulated fraud which demonstrates dilution type fraud in turmeric extract. Dilution fraud occurs when a food is diluted with material that costs less than the food to increase profits. Examples include fruit juice, milk, or wine adulterated with water, and sawdust added to tea powder. Common fillers for botanical extracts are maltodextrin, starches, and other materials with a cellulose base, such as carboxymethylcellulose. Fillers and flow agents are added legitimately to botanical extracts like turmeric extract to achieve a flowable powder. However, some suppliers add more filler than needed, and this allows them to sell the same quantity of the pure extract for a higher price. There are no legal definitions for botanical extract purity in many jurisdictions, so the amount of filler or flow agent isn't regulated. If the concentration of filler or flow agent isn't specified and checked by purchasers upon receipt, then the supplier may be tempted to add too much. Purchasers of botanical extracts use visual checks, HPTLC, and colour specifications as an early warning signal when receiving material. Extracts that have a lighter colour than expected warrant further investigation, although it's worth noting that turmeric is also vulnerable to adulteration with colorants, such as metanyl yellow and lead chromate. Next up, we've got a picture of saffron. It's a picture of 4 little cups of saffron in water on a table with sample names and circles, different coloured circles around the samples. Figure 2 shows a simple authenticity indicator test for saffron, which is Crocus sativus, using water. The test provides a visual indication of potential adulteration or substitution and can be used to decide which samples require further investigation. When water is added, real saffron releases a dark golden colour over a period of a few seconds while maintaining intact stigmas. Suspicious samples release significant quantities of colour in less than 1 second, lose their structure, and show evidence of non-stigma materials. In the test in the picture, which was conducted by students in a food fraud course at Wageningen University, on samples purchased from local stores, 3 of the 4 samples appeared inauthentic, including the most expensive samples. Sample 3, the one with the blue circle, was confirmed to be safflower, which is Carthamus tinctorius. And safflower is substituted for or used to adulterate saffron due to its similar appearance. The photographer didn't actually share which was the genuine sample out of those 4. The next picture I've got for you, and before we jump into that, you can learn everything about saffron fraud in issue 31 of the Rotten Apple. The next picture I've got for you is paprika. There are 2 pictures side by side. One is the paprika powder that was discovered to contain the colorants Sudan 1 and Sudan 4. And the picture on the left is paprika containing annatto. And there are actually packages of paprika still in their retail packs with the sticker and the brand name on the front of them. So the figure shows adulteration type fraud in 2 paprika products imported to the United States. These samples were tested by the New York State Food Lab in 2014. Adulteration type fraud is when something is added to food to increase its apparent value without being declared by the purchaser. To the purchaser. Adulterants can be unsafe for consumers and often conceal quality defects. Examples include textile dyes added to spices to make them appear fresh and flavoursome, and melamine powder added to milk to boost its apparent protein content. Sudan dyes are textile dyes which are carcinogenic and not approved for use in food. In 2014, there were 8 notifications for Sudan dyes 1, 3 and 4 in foods imported to the European Union. The foods included curry powder, chili powder, palm oil, sumac powder, and cheddar cheese powder. Adulteration with unapproved dyes sometimes accompanies another type of food fraud in paprika, dilution or substitution with spent paprika. Spent paprika is a dull, fibrous material left over after paprika oleo resin, the coloured and flavoured part of paprika spice, has been extracted from the fruit. Paprika oleo resin has a high value and is used legally as a natural colouring agent in cheese, juices, sweets, and sauces. When spent paprika is added to whole paprika or used in place of whole paprika, the resulting mix has a dull colour. Fraudsters then add illegal colorants such as Sudan dyes to the mixture to make it appear genuine. And I've got another picture in the post, and that was shared on LinkedIn by the food laboratory Bia Analytical, and they shared the image in a post about spent paprika and said that spent paprika is often coloured with harmful and illegal dyes like Sudan 1, 2, 3, 4 or Para Red. The next picture I have got for you is oregano. Dried oregano leaves look a lot like other dried leaves, and in the picture you can see there are actually 4 little dishes on a lab bench, and they've all got dried green material in them. One is labelled with oregano, one is labelled with cistus, one is labelled olive, and one is labelled myrtle, and they visually appear quite similar. And that image was shown in a webinar in 2016 by Professor Chris Elliott. Figure 6 shows the similarities between dried oregano and other leaves used to dilute it. Oregano is the herb most often affected by food fraud, and there have been several high-profile cases of consumer groups revealing food fraud in oregano, including in the United Kingdom in 2015, Australia in 2016, and the United States in 2017. In the Australian test, fewer than half of the 12 samples purchased from retail outlets were pure oregano. The others contain between 10 and 90% leaves from other plants, including olive leaves and sumac leaves. Tests in the United Kingdom and the United States of America showed adulteration in around 1/3 of samples. Have things improved with oregano in the decades since? Unfortunately, they have not. In 2020, oregano imported to Europe from Turkey was found to contain olive leaves. Further testing revealed 1/4 of samples were affected. 2 of the samples contained no oregano at all. In 2021, the European Commission tested 1,885 samples of spices and herbs and rated oregano the worst performer for food fraud, with 48% of approximately 300 oregano samples affected by adulteration, mostly with olive leaves. And in 2024, the United Kingdom's Food Standards Agency found 13% of 30 samples of oregano to contain leaves other than oregano, mostly olive leaves, at levels of up to 25%. Comment. Food fraud affects many types of food and drink, but I only had images of herbs, spices, and botanicals in my collection. That's not a coincidence. Herbs, spices, and botanicals are some of the worst affected foods for food fraud. I would have loved to have shown you photographs of food fraud in other commonly affected commodities, such as seafood, honey, olive oil, and dairy foods, but unfortunately fraud-affected versions of these foods look almost identical to the real thing, and so photographs are both rare and unhelpful. What about you? Have you got any food fraud photographs to share? If so, I would love to hear from you. Write to me by replying to any of the emails that I send or by direct messaging me on LinkedIn.